Have you ever smiled in public but cried in private? Have you ever lifted your hands in church, but inside you were wondering, God, where are you? Have you ever prayed with your lips while your heart whispered, Lord, I can't take this anymore? See, it's one thing to trust God when everything's working, but it's another thing entirely to trust Him when life hurts. When the bills stack higher than your paycheck, when the doctor shakes his head, when the people you thought would never leave suddenly walk away. That's the moment when your faith is tested, not on the mountaintop, but in the valley. And here's the truth. God never asked you to understand it. He asked you to trust Him through it. Because trust is not built in comfort. Trust is built in crisis. Anybody can praise Him when it feels good, but real trust is saying, though He slay me, yet will I trust Him. Real trust is walking through the fire knowing He's still the God who keeps you from burning. Real trust is standing in the storm with tears in your eyes, declaring, peace, be still. Even while the waves are still crashing, I know it hurts. I know it doesn't make sense right now. But God is still faithful. The very thing that broke your heart is the thing He will use to reveal His hand. The pain you're feeling today is not proof that God has left you. It's proof that He's closer than ever. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And if He allowed the pain, then He has already prepared the purpose behind it. So don't give up in the middle of the hurt. Don't throw in the towel just because it hurts right now. Trust God even here. Trust Him when the tears won't stop. Trust Him when the doors won't open. Trust Him when the way isn't clear. Because one day, the very season that brought you pain will be the testimony that brings Him glory. Your hurt may be real, but so is your healer. Your struggle may be heavy, but so is His strength. And if you can trust Him while it hurts, you will see Him turn your hurt into hope, your tears into triumph, and your pain into purpose. See, anybody can say they trust God when the sun is shining, when the account is full, when the doors are opening. But faith is never proven on the mountain. Faith is proven in the fire. It's in the furnace of affliction where you find out if your faith is real. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't discover God's power until the flames were turned up 7 times hotter. And maybe that's why your life feels like the heat just got turned up. Because God is about to reveal Himself in a way you've never seen before. Faith that has not been tested cannot be trusted. So the pain, the pressure, the tears, they are the evidence that God is preparing to show you He's still the 4th man in the fire. It's not in the easy seasons that your trust grows. It's in the hurting seasons when you've got nothing left but Him. That's where trust becomes real. That's where faith takes root. That's where God proves He's faithful. And here's what you've got to remember. Just because it hurts doesn't mean God left you. In fact, the moments that cut the deepest are often the moments He's the closest. The Bible says he's near to the brokenhearted and saves those crushed in spirit. That means while you're crying, he's right there catching every tear. While you're groaning in pain, he's translating it into prayers you can't even form. Don't let the silence fool you. He hasn't abandoned you. He's holding you. Sometimes his presence isn't loud. It's not thunder and lightning. It's that quiet strength keeping you from falling apart when you should have lost your mind. You're still standing because he was standing with you. So even in your hurt, even in your valley, you can say, God is here. The pain may be real, but so is his presence. And when you learn to recognize him in the hurt, you'll realize you were never walking alone. And this is the part that stings. Pain never feels good, but pain always has purpose. If God allowed it, he intends to use it. Nothing you've walked through will ever be wasted. That heartbreak that left you shattered, that betrayal that cut deep, that season you thought would bury you. It's all part of a bigger plan. Joseph had to go through the pit, Potiphar's house, and the prison before he could ever step into the palace. What looked like punishment was really preparation. What you call pain, God calls process. And the very thing you thought was going to kill you is the very thing God is using to shape you, stretch you, and set you up for destiny. You see, pain becomes the classroom where faith is taught. And every tear you cried was tuition for the lesson God is teaching you. So instead of asking, why me? Start saying, what's in this for me? Because if God lets you go through it, he's going to make sure you come out of it stronger, wiser, and ready for purpose. And here's what makes trusting God so hard. You keep trying to understand what he never asked you to figure out. Trust requires surrender. It's saying, God, I don't get it, but I still give it to you. See, the problem is we want faith without letting go, but real trust means taking your hands off the wheel and letting him drive, even when you can't see the road ahead. Abraham didn't understand how he'd be the father of nations with no child in sight, but he trusted. Noah didn't understand why he was building an ark in the middle of a drought, but he trusted. Jesus himself in Gethsemane said, not my will, but yours be done. That's surrender. And when you surrender, you shift the weight from your shoulders onto his. That's when peace shows up in the middle of chaos, because trust isn't about understanding the plan. It's about knowing the one who holds the plan. And here's the part that stretches you. Delay is not denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. God's timing is not like ours. We want microwave blessings, but he's a slow cooking God. He takes his time because he knows what he's preparing you for is too heavy to be rushed. Think about it. Lazarus was dead 4 days before Jesus showed up, but the delay only made the miracle greater. Sarah laughed at the promise because she thought time had expired. But God proved his word doesn't have an expiration date. Maybe the reason it feels delayed is because God is building your capacity to carry what he's about to release. If he gave it to you too soon, you wouldn't be ready for it. The waiting isn't wasted. The delay is developing you. So stop confusing not yet with never, because when the time is right, what God spoke will come to pass, and no devil in hell can stop it. And here's the beauty in it. Your hurt produces hope. I know it doesn't feel like it while you're in it, but the very season that tried to break you is the season that builds your faith. Because when you've cried all night and somehow still woke up with breath in your body, you realize hope is alive. When you've been through storms you thought would drown you, but you're still standing, you realize hope is stronger than pain. Paul said we glory in our sufferings because suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. That means every tear you shed is actually planting seeds of hope in your soul. You wouldn't pray the way you pray. You wouldn't believe the way you believe. You wouldn't stand the way you stand if it hadn't been for that hurt. The enemy meant for the pain to crush you, but God used it to anchor your hope in him, and that hope will not disappoint. And that's why you can't live by what you feel, because feelings will fool you. One day you feel like God is near, the next day you feel like he's gone. But faith was never about feelings. We walk by faith, not by sight, not by mood, not by emotions. If you only trust God when it feels good, that's not faith, that's convenience. Real trust says, even when it hurts, I still believe. Even when I can't trace his hand, I can trust his heart. Think about Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his family, his health, but he still declared, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. That's faith. Your feelings might tell you it's over, but faith says, God's not finished. Your emotions may scream, I can't take this. But faith whispers, I can do all things through Christ. When life hurts, you don't lean on what you feel. You lean on what you know. And you know God is faithful. And this is what you've got to see. The valley always leads to victory. Nobody likes the valley. It's low, it's dark. It's lonely. It feels like the place where dreams die. But the valley is where God develops you. David didn't meet Goliath on the mountain. He met him after walking through the valley. Psalm 23 doesn't say, I avoid the valley. It says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because valleys are temporary. You're walking through, not living in. And on the other side of every valley is a victory you couldn't have had without going low first. God uses the valley to strip you, to humble you, to prepare you. Because if you can worship in the valley, you'll have authority on the mountain. So don't despise the valley, because the same place that tried to bury you is the place that's preparing you for your breakthrough. And here's the thing. You don't really know God's strength until you run out of your own. As long as you think you can carry it, as long as you think you can fix it, as long as you think you can fight it by yourself, you'll keep struggling under the weight. But the moment you fall to your knees and say, God, I can't do this without you, that's when his strength shows up. Paul said, his power is made perfect in weakness. That means your weakness is not a liability. It's an invitation. Every time you hit your breaking point, heaven is saying, now watch me carry what you can't. That's why you're still standing when life tried to knock you out, because it wasn't your strength holding you up. It was his. And sometimes God will let you get to the place where you have no choice but to lean on him, because that's when you realize his strength was all you needed the whole time. And this is where it all comes together. Your trust becomes your testimony. Because when people look at your life, they won't see someone who had it easy. They'll see someone who held on when it hurt the most. Your scars will start speaking louder than your words. Your endurance will become evidence that God is real. Somebody who's ready to quit will hear your story and say, if they made it through, then so can I. That's why the devil wanted to break your trust, because he knew your testimony would carry power. Every sleepless night, every silent tear, every prayer you thought bounced off the ceiling is going to be the very proof that God was faithful all along. And when you stand on the other side of your pain declaring, I trusted him and he came through, your life becomes a living sermon. Your testimony will preach louder than any microphone, because you are the evidence that trusting God works, even when life hurts.